hear stuff like that and you feel so old, it's ridiculous. Thank you, Economic Times, for inviting me here. I have very, very strong and fond but few memories of being in Amritsar. I remember coming here when India turned 50 and walking to the Wagah border at night on August 14th. And there was a candlelit vigil in those days, I guess. But that was my first experience. In those days, there was no flight from Amritsar back to either Bombay or Delhi. So I remember we caught a train. So the train was in the early hours of the morning. And after the candlelit vigil, we had 3 or 4 hours to spare. So I went with a few friends of mine for the first time to the Golden Temple. And we were there and we watched the sunrise, and it was just a magical experience. That was my first and most wonderful experience in Amritsar. After which I came back, I think it was a year or two ago, for another talk. And the generosity, my mother was half Punjabi, so the generosity of people in the Punjab is just unrivaled. There's no limit to it, especially when it comes to khana. And for somebody who's always on a diet, this is the place I dread coming to, but I also love to come to also. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I understand that many of you are not from here, but for those who are here, this is my little bit of gratitude to the city. I had a chat with the organizers of this entire afternoon, evening, day, and we went through a lot of the lecture modules that I have. Some of them are very popular in colleges, and some of them are very popular with corporates. And the one that we settled on was the toughest lessons on life that I've had to face in the 3 worlds that I inhabit. So I inhabit the world of cinema, I inhabit the world of international sport, and I inhabit the world of non-profit, being a founder, as Kunal said, of 2 NGOs. And I thought what would be really interesting and something you can chew on, I'm sure all of you will be able to identify with those experiences, is talking about my greatest testing times. What is it that we dread the most as human beings? The dream that we have where we are walking around without any clothes on, or the dream that we have when we fall off a bed and we just keep falling and no one catches us. These are basically dreams that are talking about our subconscious fears of humiliation and of failure. So I thought I'd go straight to the heart of that and talk to you about my greatest humiliations. Most people who come on to fora like this talk about their greatest successes. All 3 stories turned out well, and that's the lesson that I had to teach myself. But what I had to go through, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. So I will, without any further ado, start. The first lesson I learned was from a movie that I was shooting for very early on in my career. And unlike being on stage, I've been on stage since the age of 6. And I only stopped getting onto stage till in the year 2000. So pretty much 30 years I was on stage. Unlike stage, where when you're actually performing, you can sense the audience's energy is low and you need to pick it up. Or that this great speech of yours didn't really have the effect you wanted and you need to push up the energy after the interval. Unlike stage, which is done chronologically, unlike stage where you actually unfold a script from page 1 to page 100, cinema is different. Cinema, you can start on the first day shooting page 89 and the next day shooting page 1. So one day you could be mourning the death of your father and the next day you'd be running with him through a garden, playing cricket with him. And that's the way cinema is. And for that reason, and for the reason that you don't have an audience by which to gauge the graphing of your performance, invariably the only person who helps you do that, who is your audience, who is your barometer, is the director. So the director is the person you look to knit the arc of your performance. आज थोड़ा ज़्यादा है राहुल, याद है कि 10 दिन पहले इस स्क्रिप्ट में, इस सीन के पहले जो सीन में आपने काम किया था, आपने यहाँ पे लाया था, तो ये तो यहाँ पे गया है, प्लीज ग्राफ इट करेक्टली. So there's a performance barometer and there's also an idea of how it's going. How are you doing? The only encouragement you can get is from that one person. And for reasons I don't want to go into here, that was not forthcoming from this particular director. All I got was silence. Sometimes, yeah, that was fine, come on, let's move on to the next shot. But how was I doing? And as a raw actor in cinema, as somebody who had only done stage before, you can imagine how nervous and insecure I was. So there I was, day after day after day, playing the lead in this film and really not knowing how I was doing or how the performance, whether I was hitting the right points in the graph. Add to this, the place we were shooting at, we were shooting in a village, and in that village, the place that was the fanciest hotel of that little town, village, call it what you will, was a simple, non-air conditioned block of rooms. And as they say in the hotel business, I'm sure people from Radisson are here, location, location, location. These people really had it right. Because on the one side was what seemed to me the busiest petrol pump in the world. There used to be trucks and buses and musical horns and diesel fumes. Remember, it's a non-AC little place. So the windows were open. And it was absolutely infernally noisy and difficult to also breathe fresh air till about 3 o'clock in the morning. And at 3, everything would get quiet. But on the other side, what seemed to me was the busiest temple in the world. And there the bells would start at 3:30 sharp. So I had 29 minutes of uninterrupted sleep every day. You can imagine being sleepless makes us normally so irritable. But under the pressure of playing the lead in this film and not knowing where it's going, this was something I didn't need. The food there in this place, they were very hospitable in this little place. Whatever you ordered, whether it was a dosa or a idli or a uttapam, they would give you sand free. And they would not give the sand separately like a bowl of dal you get with something. They would add the sand in the batter, in the rava or the, medu vada batter. So whatever you had, I think I ingested enough sand to make a silicone, to make a supermodel jealous. So even with the food and the accommodation, I would still have been fine if I had had a warm, empathetic, communicative director. But I didn't. So every day, I would have to ask myself the question, how did it go? And I would have to burrow deep down into my instinct and my experience till then as an actor to tell myself, theek thak, you can do a little bit better. This felt good. This felt good. With all the experience I had as an actor and my basic instincts being an actor, this felt good. Was the most I could assure myself. Movies take a long time to finish. A year later, I got a call from the director saying that the film is ready. And it has been selected to the Toronto International Film Festival. Does anyone play tennis or watch tennis out here? Yeah, so you know the Grand Slam, right? The US, the French, Wimbledon, and the Australian. In those days, in the middle 90s, the Grand Slam of festivals was Cannes, Venice, Berlin, and Toronto. They still are the top 4 festivals. There might be 2 or 3 others in the pantheon now. But it was a big deal. And I was like, wow, we're in Toronto. That's fantastic. But I told him, I said, I haven't seen the film. And he said, typically, oh, don't worry, you'll see it there. Fine. So there I am in Toronto. The first public screening ever of this movie. In a hall which was a single screen, 600-seater. Not the 240-seaters with the plush seats we have now. It was a 600-seater. And I was watching it, like in all famous film festivals, with an international audience. There must have been 200 Torontonians and 400 delegates from all over the world. None of them had an idea what the film was about, and forget about them. They didn't know who I was for sure. Anyway, I sat there sweating on a very cold September evening, watching this film, my first film ever that I was watching. And I'll confess I didn't watch the movie. I just watched myself. And scene by scene, I kept rating myself. That's okay. Not great. But that's not bad. And I was sweating bullets. By the end of the screening, I felt one feeling, which was relief. कि बाल बाल बच गए, ऐसा लग रहा था मुझे. I wasn't sure, but I thought maybe I've just about saved my skin. After the movie, on a platform like this, the programmer of the festival, one of the programmers came out and said, "We'll take Q&A with the audience. I'd like to invite the director of the film," and the director came onto stage. And to his credit, he said, "Before I take any questions, I'd like to invite the lead actor of this film to come and join me. Please welcome Mr. Rahul Bose." And I came walking down onto the stage. You know how I was feeling. I came onto that stage, and this is not the point of the story, but this is an important part of the story. Everybody stood up. 600 people who didn't know me from Adam, and I didn't know them, stood up. And they clapped. And here's the lesson that I take away from that. Many times in life, you will not get the feedback that you really want. Many times in life, you will not get the evaluation that you need to become a better leader or a team player. And it's in those times that the best thing you can do is to rely on your instinct. And your instinct is made up of your gut feel, along with all the experience you've amassed over the years. And if it goes wrong then, and if everybody had booed me instead of standing up, I could still take it, because I had made all the decisions through that movie based on my feeling, not that anybody else told me, what anybody else told me. If I had done the opposite, if I had changed my performance because you said something and you said something and you said something, and I kept calibrating, this is a metaphor for life. Do you live your life the way other people want you to live it, or do you live your life based on your basic values? You can stand and say, whatever I am today, for better or for worse, I am responsible for it. And there is no better way to go back home and put your head down on the bed than to say that. So that was the first lesson I'd like to talk to you about. And I thought that was, for me, I always know that never take that for granted, the evaluation, but always remember, you might be wrong. 4 out of 10 times, the instinct will let you down. You might be wrong, but at least you can stand up for your own mistakes. The second example is from the world of nonprofit. So in the world of nonprofit, unlike most commercial organizations, the thing that I learned was most important. What does a nonprofit do? What should a nonprofit do? Make the world a more peaceful, a more compassionate, a happier place, which means make people that much less in pain, that much more with happiness. Simple. That's it. All this, the remainder hoo-ha, doesn't matter. Are you doing that? And if you're doing that, you need to shout about it from the rooftops. Neither do you need to talk to anyone about it. What I learned from the world of nonprofit was that you should always deliver what you promise. Or, even better, you can even under-promise and over-deliver. But never, because there are human beings on the other half of this equation, never overpromise and under-deliver. Whether it is, darling, I'll be there in 5 minutes, or whether it is, I'll have the presentation ready by tonight, or whether it is, I love you. Never overpromise and underdeliver. Because one day when you say, फुटबॉल के मैदान में कल सुबह आप आ जाना 6 बजे, हेलीकॉप्टर से राइस पैकेट्स और साफ पीने के लिए पानी के पैकेट्स गिराए जाएंगे, आप वहां से ले लेना. And at 6 o'clock, the whole village comes to the helipad, waiting for the food packets and the water packets. And the helicopter doesn't turn up. So the next day when you say, Kal subah 6 baje aana, half the village turns up. And I've learned there can be nothing more anguishing for the human soul than to knowingly crush the hopes of somebody in front of you. I know this sounds like a very deep human lesson, but you can take from it what you will. To always respect the other person enough to, at the very minimum, promise what you deliver. There's one company I was delivering a talk to, Nike. In fact, the smallest group of people I've ever talked to, their top management from Oregon came down, and I was talking to them about film, fashion, and lifestyle, and athletics, and sport. And they said that in every Nike, there were just 8 of them in the room, in every Nike shoe, there is a feature that they don't talk about. And they wait for the customer to discover it. And when the customer discovers it, experience has shown them the goodwill that they've gotten from the fact of the, did you know that? By the way, did you see this? Which then becomes viral, creates so much of goodwill because the customer knows that the company has not done this cynically to get brownie points. The company has done this quietly. An example of under-promising and over-delivering. Right. And the third and last lesson, this is the toughest lesson of all, for sure. And I think the only way to say it is as straight as possible. So as Kunal very kindly mentioned, I've played rugby for India for 11 years. I played 17 internationals, all 17 that we played. And in 1998, when India plays its first ever test match, I was on that team, and we got broken by Singapore 85-0, which in footballing terms is 8-love. In 2008, 10 years after I had been playing for India, after having played 15 internationals, I announced my retirement. It was a triangular happening in the Philippines, in Manila. We were playing the Philippines, and I think we were playing Thailand, I'm not sure. And rugby is played by 15 people, like cricket with 11, hockey with 11, on the field. And there are substitutes like in soccer. There are 7 substitutes in rugby. Except the difference between rugby and any other field outdoor sport is that there are so many injuries, and it is so taxing that the 7 substitutes are just a shade below, in terms of ability, the positions they are filling in when they come onto field. But you can't afford to have a second string because of the you could be playing the whole game. Somebody could be injured in the first minute, right? I wasn't good enough to be on the Indian team's first 15 by the time I was retiring. I was in the substitutes. So there are 7 substitutes, so first 15 play, and if you're going by numbers, 16 to 22 are sitting on the bench. It's an 80-minute game, and invariably, injuries notwithstanding, from the second half onwards, the substitutions start happening. Minute 40, minute 44, etc., 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 etc. So the subs know that by the time the first half is over, if all goes well, you will then start warming up during the halftime, and then one by one, you'll get your game. I knew that at best I was going to get the last 20 minutes to play for India. Fine, no problem. We played Thailand, that got over. My last test match ever was against the Philippines. So I was on the bench waiting. The halftime got over. We all 7 of us began to warm up. Nostalgic. Uh, Boys I'd played with for all 10 years. Some of them I'd played with before that for 20 years, for 10 years before, at the club level. Old friends, good friends, blood brothers, literally blood brothers. And so it was, just, it's a sentimental, nostalgic, beautiful moment. Warming up, coach said, at minute 44, he said, number 16, get on. 16 went on. About minute 49, he said, number 17, get on. Number 17 got on, gave me a high five, see you on the field. About minute 53, he said, number 19, get on. So I was like, must be a strategic call. So number 19 went on. Minute 58, number 20 was brought on. Number 20 went on. Minute 64, number 21 was taken on. Number 21 went on. There were just 2 of us warming up now. Minute 68, number 22 went on. I said, okay, there are 12 minutes to go. And invariably, there are at least 3-4 minutes of extra time. So there'll be 16 minutes of my last test match for India. And so I waited, I was warming up 70 minutes, 72, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80. Whistle went, extra time was called for 4 minutes, injury time. I was still warming up, looking at the coach. He wasn't looking at me, he was looking at the game. Understandable. 81, 82, 83, and full time. And on that field, there were 43 rugby players from the Philippines and India who had played a test match for their country. And there was one player in his last test match, after playing for 10 years, who hadn't got on the field. And just like you, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. It was not that we were losing so that they played the best 15, they didn't substitute anyone, it was a tense game, nothing. We were winning. Boys came off the field, high five, shouting, yelling, screaming, joy, and then looking at me and knowing something very bad had happened. Because these are my best friends. And they know. They're like, Bose? I'm like, yeah, okay. Now, I'm on the team bus. And I don't want to be there. Don't get me wrong, I want to be there. We've won a game. But I don't want to be there in this dark cloud of depression, anger, humiliation. And everybody is celebrating far away from me at the back of the bus because unlike what most people think, rugby players can be very sensitive. And they left me alone. I'm going to the hotel, onto our floor, we've got the whole floor. You don't want to be on a floor after a rugby tournament with rugby boys. People running around, slapping towels on each other, screaming, singing, somebody's shirt is being ripped off, etc., etc. And again, my roommate has quietly left the room, gone to another person's room, and left the room for me. So I go in there, I'm drenched with sweat, but my jersey is clean. And there can be no worse feeling at the end of a game for a rugby player. So I go, I shower, I change, and I leave. I walk downstairs, I go to the concierge, and I say, where is the nearest bar? Not in this hotel, but outside. He says, sir, the Shangri-La is across the road. It's got a very nice bar there. It's not late, it's early. It was a daytime game. It wasn't a floodlit game. So I think it's about 6. I go into the Shangri-La, go into the bar. In those days, I only drank beer. And I begin drinking at 6 p.m. And I drink alone till 2 a.m. And I'm dead sober. At 2 a.m., the phone starts to buzz. Messages. Bose, where are you? join us. It's our last night ever. We'll never have this night again. We've had dinner. We're at a club. Come. The coach is also with us. And that was 50% of the reason I decided to go. To meet the boys one last time. It's not their fault. And to also meet the coach and figure what happened. Get closure. And I met the coach, and the first thing, and the only thing I asked him was, why? And he gave me the most violent answer I've ever received in my life. He said nothing. He just looked at me. And that was the time, that was the moment I decided I was not going to retire. That was the moment I decided I would not leave international rugby like this. So I went back to Bombay. I was 41 years old. Time to go. And I said, no, I have to do it once more. 2009, there was a triangular in Singapore. I started training for that. I got my own sprint coach, my own S&C, strength and conditioning coach. I was at the Bombay Gymkhana grounds training. And five or six of the Indian team boys were from the Bombay Gymkhana team, and they were like, what is he doing? Why is he doing this to himself? He doesn't need to do it. Why is he making a fool of himself? The coach was screwed up, that's fine. Why does he have to put himself through this? What if he doesn't get in? He'll be 42 next year, man. And I knew that, and I just kept at it. There was an announcement for the triangular in Singapore. They had a first selection of 60 probables coming in. Remember, 22 are selected finally. And I made the 60. Then they had a fitness test for the 60. And I came 8th in that fitness test. And then they selected the team that would go into camp. That was 30. I made the 30. Then they announced the squad that would actually play at the 22. I made the 22. And through a series of fortunate circumstances also and some injuries, I didn't end my career playing for India in 2009 in Singapore in the 22. I ended it playing in the 15. And the lesson in this is very, very clear. Not once, not twice. Many, many, many times in your life, you will face humiliation. You will face unfair treatment. You will face injustice. You will face an appraisal and evaluation of your strengths that is totally unfair. You will not get what you deserve. And the lesson I learned from my experience was that next time you want to go and be selected, you can't open the door and tell the selectors, I'm here, select me. You have to take a few steps back, crouch, sprint to that door and break it down, smash it down so the splinters come on the face of every selector. And then say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here. So that the shame of not selecting you is not on you. It's on them. So that the case that you make is so overwhelmingly in your favor that the world will rise up and say, what nonsense is this? This is crazy. Never expect the world to take a decision in your favor if it's 55-45. Never expect the world to take a decision in your favor if it's 60-40 or 70-30. The only time you can rest and say, yes, this decision is going to come in my favor if it's 99-1 at the minimum. Every single time you have to break that door and shatter it. Don't leave anything to chance if it really matters to you. I'm not saying don't be compassionate, don't be loving, none of that. I'm saying when you want to go for something, make sure you cover all your bases. Because this world, take it as a truth, always thinks 50% of what you think of yourself. It's as simple as that. Thank you. I think I have some time for some questions, but thanks very much. Kunal,
Well, thank you so much, sir, for your inspiring words. And, before we go ahead, I was a small kid. Like, I don't know how old I look, but yeah, I was around 15 or 16 when I used to see you in movies. That time I was allowed to watch television. Before that, I was not allowed to watch television. I saw your movie that Chain Kuli Ki Main Kuli, and I still remember the name Varun Bhaiya. I used to call it like this, Varun Bhaiya. And I've always seen you as an actor, but before coming to this place, and I feel very ashamed about this, I had no idea that you were a rugby player too. But respect, sir, respect, because it's very tough what you did at the age of 41. Also, you continued, and if you don't mind, can I shake hand once again? And sir, I would request Mr. Amit Kumar Gupta, Business Head, ETB2B, to please come on stage and present Mr. Bose a memento. And before we do that, there's a Q&A session, and if anyone wants to ask something, please raise your hand. Oh, yep. Can we have the mic, please?
Great speech. Thank you for that. I just wanted to know, what's a day like in the life of Rahul Bose? How does your day look like?
well, actually, it's there are two ways to look at it. What's your name? Sakshi. There are two ways to look at it. One is that it's crazy, and two is that it's incredible. So the three worlds, like as president of the Indian Rugby Union now, there are 29 states, and I just came off a board meeting on Zoom. I've traveled 8 cities in the last 7 days. This morning I was in Delhi. Yesterday I was in, where was I before
Lucknow.
Delhi, Karan?
Lucknow.
And before that I was in Bhubaneswar and Goa. So it's incredible. I've shot 4 films in the last 9 months. I became president of Indian Rugby on 18th of December 2021. In the last 10 months, in those 10 months, I've had to shoot 4 films. And I'm not boasting. I'm just saying, and 1 major series. And I'm like, why did it have to happen now? My career has always been 1 film a year. I've been around for 30 years. I've done 45 odd films. It's been that. Why now? Why this crazy stuff? And then on top of that, both my NGOs and, my Kashmir kids are now 22. My Andamans kids are 27 years old. Our Manipur kids are 18. New colleges to go to, new schools. I keep saying in my NGO work, I'm either a peon or a beggar. That's it. That's my life. But because it's for me chocolate cake, chocolate mousse, and chocolate ice cream, I can fill my stomach and never feel full. Now, if you gave me Karela and you gave me Tinda and you gave me, I don't know, something else, I would say, no, yeah, I'm very full. I'll have this much and say I'm full, right? Like kids do. But because everything I do in my life, I really want to do it. When a mother tends to a newborn child for the first 3 years, or a father in today's world, 24 hours a day, do they ever turn around and say, something, I wish I didn't have this child, I could just sleep easy, maybe as a joke to someone, but they never ever turn around and say, damn, the time commitment this child is taking from me. No. When you do something you don't like, you start talking about time commitment, body ache, and stress. When you're loving something, do you ever say, yaar, I can't have this beer, my time commitment will get screwed up? Or, please, I can't dance to this song at the wedding because my body ache will happen tomorrow. No. Because we love it. So the secret is to surround your life with everything that you love, and you will never, ever, ever think of the fact that it's taking up your time or your energy or anything. So a typical day in the life starts at about, today started at 5:30, so starts at about 7 and finishes by 1:30, sleep for about, I think 5.5, 6 hours and I'm fine. 7 hours and I'm a king. 8 hours and, I'll be flying somewhere else. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Mukbil Ahmed.
Hi, Rahul. It's been a wonderfully insightful, subject that you spoke about. And my question to you is, related to what you spoke about. You said that, you encountered humiliation and injustice. Now, really building onto it, there was a certain path that you took, when you were faced and confronted with this injustice. Now, I really want to take it to a larger stage. We see that there are injustices, many, many instances happening across the globe. And there are typical ways in which the subjugated people or the people who face those instances of injustice, they take up a certain course of action. What would your suggestion be to them, people who are fighting injustice?
Thanks. First of all, I don't think I'm anyone to even venture into that kind of an answer. But I would imagine, from whatever I've seen of people's movements, most of them in India, some of them outside, I think when people rise up, they just rise up because it hurts their way of life, the way they want to raise their kids, the songs they want to hear, the festivals they want to celebrate, the time they want to share with their loved ones. We don't really care first about the big geopolitical issues. We care about this. That's how a tribe is formed. Let's all get together because we share the same way of life. We agree on a few basic things. So we hang out together. And if somebody tries to upset that, then we'll defend ourselves. Otherwise, we're just here. That's the concept. And I think that when people rise, it's because of this fundamental reason that our way of life is threatened. Not something as like, no, because you are wearing this color. It's first about love. Are you stopping my ability to enjoy this world and to give love and to receive love? If I'm hungry, it is. If I have no shelter, it is. So invariably it boils down to very, very, what I've seen, elemental human issues, which then get refined into certain movements and stuff. But if you boil it down, any mass movement, it is that this is causing fundamental pain. It's nothing more than that. It takes on different avatars, but it starts with that. Anywhere, even climate change, if you look at, starts with fundamental pain. That when there's a climate crisis and there's a calamity, women don't eat. They give their food to their men folk. This is seen. One of the highest spikes of sexual attacks happen the day after a calamity, an earthquake. That's when a lot of attacks happen because women are left without families, without homes, without secure systems, without their loved ones, without their support systems. So when you talk of climate change, that person isn't fighting for climate change and 1.5 degree global warming. They're fighting for the fact that if this happens and we don't have money, then my daughter won't get to eat. Then my kids will die. That's where it comes from. Human beings don't skyrocket and start talking about, complex global theories like that. It evolves into that. It starts, and it should end with that. We just have to look at that. That's all it means. Let's reduce pain. If I can reduce pain, that's it. I'm not even saying let's increase happiness. I'm saying let's just reduce pain. What can I do to reduce your pain? People make such a big deal out of non-profit खोलना है नहीं ये लोग तो ऐसे करते हैं इनके what are your objectives, what are your numbers? What is this nonsense? The objective should be basically to reduce pain if you want to. Again, and that's very important. If it doesn't make you happy to do anything for anybody, don't. I'd much rather have you happy and not helping or harming anybody than have you unhappy and helping people every day, what's the point? How are you increasing human happiness if you're unhappy? So I have a very complex, long talk on giving. And the first thing I say is, what is the amount of money that if you were running for your IIT JEE exam, fell out of your pocket, and you wouldn't turn around to pick it up because you're late for the exam? What is that amount of money? Anybody? 5 rupees? 5 rupees? Give that to me. That's all I want. Doesn't hurt you? Help somebody. The first step of giving is it has to be painless. That's the first step. Anyway, it's a much larger talk.
Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing, Rahul. Thank you so much for for being here, and a lot of learning from you. And really, we wanted to get from you actually. I mean, of course, you also grown in the different stages of pain and gain, and then just leading the world. And what are the top learnings you got it from other colleagues? It's maybe on the cinema field or maybe in other areas. Because it's like you have two phases, right? It's on the real life, what exactly you already on the ground, on the real life. And then another one is it's on the movie, right? It is absolutely different. It's just purely on the acting. So what's happening, and then both the sectors it's absolutely different. So it was a great learning you have taken from others.
The great learning I've taken from?
From others and co-colleagues, right? It's maybe on the acting, or it's maybe
Do you have 5 years? I mean, all of us have learned. If you're not learning every day, I think it was Don Bradman who said, he's a very famous batsman, who, when the press asked him, who do you watch? You've become the best batsman in the world. Who have you watched? And he said, I watched A, B, and C. He said, they're not great batsmen. He said, yeah. When they did something good, I remembered it. When they did something bad, I remembered to not do that. And that's how I learned. So I guess you learn all the time from somebody doing something palpably wrong, and from somebody also doing something which you can learn from. The only thing you need to do is to, this sounds horrible, but is to just stay rooted. Just to stay humble. Like, not humble, just stay rooted. So that I find a lot of people who think they've made it, their ears fill up with wax. They stop hearing. They're only interested in this, not interested in this at all. So I think this is open, both sides.
Awesome, Rahul.
Hey, hi Rahul, this is Prateek. So, really moved by your story. Thank you for telling us. I'm sure it was not that easy to tell such a uncomfortable story which happened. Anyone would be very uncomfortable. So now you are on the board, right? And you face that kind of an experience, what that coach did to you. Okay. And see, we were in the era where there was no social media. Nowadays, the kids who come in, right? And if something happens, something like that happens to them, right? Social media makes it it balloons it up. Okay. So what I want to know is, now because you are on the board, what do you think should have changed, or should be there in that coach which was missing, which should not happen to any youngster? And the other thing is, what advice you would have for the youngsters if they face such kind of thing in a social media kind of environment?
Well, I think, first of all, specifically about that coach, I think he was jealous that all the attention that anybody knows about rugby in India is Rahul Bose. And I was nowhere near the best player in India. Why was I getting all the attention? So I think it was jealousy that was playing out there when I look back on it now. As far as now that I'm president of Rugby India, look, it's very, very simple, ladies and gentlemen. If you know me at all in the last 25 minutes, you'll know one thing, that I just cut through all the bullshit and look at exactly what is the intent behind an action. Ki tumhari niyat kya hai? What is the intent? And for me, it's very simple. And I tell my team this all the time. Think about the player. Where should we have a tournament? think about the player. What does the player want? Great ground. Where is the best ground? In this weather. जुलाई का महीना है, बंबई में बारिश बहुत हो रहा है. Practically 3/4 of the country is under rain. Which part doesn't have rain? Where the ground is hard, where the ground is good. Sir, Dharamshala. Sir, Jaipur. What temperature is it there? Sir, Jaipur 49 degrees, Dharamshala 24 degrees. Do you see? The second important thing for a player is खाना कहाँ मिलेगा, पौष्टिक अच्छा खाना कहाँ मिलेगा. सर, यहाँ पे यूथ हॉस्टल में, ये इस यूनिवर्सिटी में उनके जो बंदोबस्त है बहुत सही है, उनका खाना अच्छा है. Let's go and have a look. So I eat before every camp. I go to the camp. I eat exactly what the players are eating. I lie down on the bed that they're going to be lying down for the next 45 days. And I make sure that I obviously walk around the ground. I check everything if I was like a player. And I keep saying, if you want to run life, family, federation, whatever, think of who you're doing this for. I do everything for you, right? Parents tell their children. And the kid is not thankful. Because perhaps you're not. Perhaps you're not. Perhaps you haven't read her right. Perhaps she doesn't want that. And that I do everything for you is not true. You're doing everything for her, but it's not meaning anything to her. Why don't you put yourself in her place? As if I was a little child, would I want to dance in front of the aunties and uncles today? Or would I much rather go back and play something constructive on an iPad? And you have to, so every time with the federation, I say, just think of the player. If you think of the player, no federation, sports federation can go wrong. Of course, you have to make plans and all of that. But if you keep the player at the heart of every decision you make, you cannot go wrong. It's just impossible. You will have to do other things, but this will never go wrong. So that's what I think that's the long answer to a short question. And advice to the youth, I'll just finish this, Kunal. The advice to the youth would be very simple. Do what you love. Life is too short here. Life is too short. Don't live for other people. Anxiety on social, so much of counseling. Every second child I know is being counseled for anxiety because of social media pressure, likes, and all of that. Just let them, push them to find what they want to do. They can change their mind every 2 years, it's fine. But that moment, they should be doing something that they like and not other people expect them to do. Really, all of us have been there. It's the only way to exhale. It's the only way to sleep peacefully at night. Kunal is standing here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time. We'll just take one last question as his time is, he has a very busy schedule. One last question, anyone, if anyone wants to ask just one last question, otherwise I will ask one question. I have a question. Yeah? Anyone? Anyone there? Okay.
You've just robbed Kunal of his... I'll answer it anyway, Kunal.
Thank you so much, sir.
So it's a very off-track
Sorry,
question.
are you guys in a rush? Because I can leave. Do you guys have to go anywhere? Am I sure? Okay.
Just from the film fraternity, actually, from your last movie Bulbul, actually, I really loved your acting in the movie, actually. While I have seen your journey as an actor, doing such good, excellent movies, I felt that was a bit of an off-track role that you played in Bulbul, but it was excellent. I just wanted to know what made you do the movie actually.
So it's a double role. For those who haven't seen Bulbul, it's a double role where I play the Zamindar in the turn of the century, 18 whatever to 19 whatever. So it's in that period, set in Bengal. And I also play the Zamindar's mentally challenged brother. So they're both 40 years old. One controls the entire Jagir, and the other one is the mentally challenged brother who everybody treats like I think he's arrested development at about 10 or 11 years old. And everybody treats him like a ladla. He gets what he wants. That's how they treat him. He's dressed exactly like the Zamindar, but he's, got a little bit of a motor problem with his reflexes and stuff. So the reason I took this was because I wanted to approach a double role, not as a double role, but as two different films. I'm doing this film and I'm doing this film. Two different films, two different characters, no connection, nothing. What made me take it, and I've just finished playing a serial murderer in a film where there are 9 victims who are very, very badly butchered in different ways. And I'm using that trailer for anybody who says no to me at the Rugby India Federation. I'm just going to put that trailer down there. But in truth, as far as my acting goes, I want to go to places I've never been before. And as an actor, if you take roles, you will, Rahul will go to those places in his mind. And don't tell me if I'm wrong, but everybody has been to places in their mind here that they've never been to physically. So, and I'm not talking about playing Wimbledon. So I'm saying it's all of that I want to do. I really want to push the edges of my consciousness to what I can bring to that. Can I do it? Can I pull it off? Can I play this guy? You know, and I've never done things for money. I'm not 1,000th famous as so many of people in my industry, but that's what I want to do. That's why I'm here. That's why I like doing what I'm doing. I only care about if the audience many years later they meet me and say, "Tera naam bhul gaya," which in any case they don't remember. नाम क्या पता नहीं, लेकिन पिक्चर का नाम भी भूल गए, लेकिन ये याद है पिक्चर देखने के बाद मुझे फीलिंग क्या हुआ था तुम्हें देखकर. स्टोरी भी ज्यादा याद नहीं है, लेकिन फीलिंग याद है. That's all I want. That feeling that my character evoked. यार मुझे बहुत डर लगा उस वक्त. I loved you so much, I hated you. Things like that. That's fine. But that's what you want people, I want from people years later to, I don't care about, the selfie or the garland or whatever it is.
Okay,
And I wouldn't mind expensive gifts.
Okay, so that last question which you said you'll answer. Sir, after your incident in a hotel in Chandigarh, has any hotel ever dared to charge you for fruits?
I know this is going to be on social media, so I'm not going to say a word. All I will say is I never, ever, ever want to be on social media in my life. I just want to talk about stuff like my films and my cricket. I love watching cricket or rugby. Otherwise, I'm out of there. That's not the notoriety or the fame or the renown that I ever, ever, ever want to be known for in my entire life. Ever. That's not my world. It never will be, and it'll never happen again.